Hello and welcome to Apropos, a conversation between Clojure programmers that you can join in live. We're going to discuss a few Clojure news items and share our opinions on them. Then we'll jump into a REPL and code some exercises or do some demos. If you're joining us live, feel free to comment in the chat and we'll try to address the questions. There we go. All right.
We're on.
So we have some topics today. Ray, yours looks
Do we
like
need to
it's
say
on the
who we
top.
are, or is it we just?
Oh, I forgot our panel.
Everyone kind of knows now, you know.
Our lovely panel. I forgot. No, you're right. I forgot. I'm just gonna go in the order I see them. We have
All right.
Mia.
Hi.
We have Mike.
Hello.
We have Ray.
Yo.
An anonymous backup head.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, my son is in here as well. Your daughter might be making some appearances, mightn't she?
Yes, and I'm Eric, and yes, that's my door. And if you see that open, and then you can't see below here, that's my daughter coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's my son in the background playing some games. So if the internet drops to like 50% quality on my end, it's just him swamping some turtles or something. Yeah. Right.
Awesome.
So,
Ray, you had the first topic.
On topic. Yeah, it was, Clojure Enterprise Edition. Here she is. Yeah, Clojure Enterprise Edition. So I saw something this week from Walmart Labs, this thing called Schematic from Howard Lewis Ship. And those guys seem to be doing some fantastic work. And obviously what they're doing there is they're beginning to sort of feel the challenges of scaling out Clojure as a team, and I think Mia, you guys have some similar problems or some similar issues, and so as things get bigger, you seem to need more kit to do your Clojure with, So people like have made component systems, and now Howard Lewis Ship has come up with this schematic, which is some way of, I don't know, some polish on top of component. And James Reeves, he has this integrant system that's again on top of component, and then there's other people, Toilus, have this mount system. So and then some people like eschew all of these component systems. So my question really, I guess, is why do all these component systems happen? What are they all about? Why do people need them? Well, what is about scale that makes them necessary? And, is there a sort of, not exactly a war, but is there a competition of ideas around these things? I've never honestly, I've used component once on a system, and it was okay. It was mostly to start up some bits and pieces to do with a test environment, but I've never really got into it. So I really haven't got much skin in the game, but I see it happening in the community, and I'm kind of interested because the motivation for it seems to be around managing state and managing startup order and all the kind of things that are kind of orthogonal to functional programming and Clojure in some ways. So I don't know what the rest of you guys think about that, about this whole componentization of things when Clojure gets to scale. I don't know if you felt it yet. Maybe it's Mia, you should answer this first because you're probably the closest to a scaled out person we have on the panel.
I mean, we've actually, this is something we haven't had to roll our own of yet. And I think it's probably because we're focused on microservices.
All right, okay.
So we are having some trouble trying to do a mono repo project right now. Line modules isn't really working for us. So we might end up rolling our own kind of build system, but I don't think we're going to be looking at any of these. This actually made no waves in our internal Clojure channel, which I thought was really interesting. Like, people just aren't talking about it.
So do you use a component system at all?
We don't on my team. It's possible that the team that does more stuff with the front end does because they have a lot more projects to keep together.
Hmm.
So my team is just this single monorepo project.
Yeah.
So I've used component before, and it's it seems useful when you have some state that you need to. I guess if you change something in your code and it's no longer compatible with that state in some way, and you need to tear things down properly and bring them all back up again, it's very useful for that pattern. But to me, it's always been like, if I can get away with not having to bring things down and bring them back up again, I would like to just go into the REPL and redefine a function or two, and exercise those functions through the REPL. And to me, it's always felt like component wasn't like critical to make things work properly. Because in the end, if you really, really, really have to, just shut everything down and bring it back up manually again. and that's kind of kludgy. But if I guess if you're like in a workflow where you have to bring it down and back up again frequently,
I guess the canonical like version of this is where you have like a web application that connects to Kafka and connects to a database and connects to 3 other services, and then you have to kind of somehow make sure all of those services are connected and running before you start running your thing. So I guess you do that a bit, Mia, with your stuff. So how do you get away without it? Or do you just say, okay, this is your starting order and bam, we're going that way?
So that's why my suspicion is that the other teams use it. Our system that we work on it has very limited state, and it's really, things go into it, but we've sort of built a closed system around it where the only thing that writes to it directly are systems that we also maintain. And making sure that those all agree on the same thing is pretty simple. It's the dumbest possible backend system. We're pretty proud of it, which means that
simple is good,
Yeah, no, it is. It's been great.
I heard that somewhere.
Simple, made easy. But my suspicion is, we do have some of those canonical situations like you talked about in the other teams. And I'm guessing they use something like component. I'm actually not sure what they use because I haven't talked to them about that. And that's one of the things that happens when you're scaling up Clojure, when you're scaling teams. You end up with these little islands of knowledge. If I had to dive into their system, I would have absolutely no idea where to start. Let's see what they're using.
I tried to use component, it's obviously been around a long time, so I've always been like curious about it. And what I found was that it was one of these things where I could do without it. And so whenever I would try to use it, I would just be like, I'm not quite sure what it's going to do in this case. And I'm still only 10% of the way to like componentizing everything. So I'm just going to back out and, do it with a def once and an atom or, something, just kludge it together. And it works fine, like I don't have a tight interconnection of lots of like things that have to launch in a certain order and they depend on each other, which it seems like it's really made for. So yeah, I've never, and then like it wasn't like mount was like the answer either. It was simply I never have anything complicated enough to require it.
Yeah, I think the other thing that they talk about is there's two parts to component that are interesting. One is that it's a bit of a kind of all or nothing type system in the sense that, like you said, Eric, if you're only 10% into your code or you only want to restart 2 things, you've got a component. You've got to put components on everything. You've got to you've got to buy the whole package. And I think the idea with mount was that you didn't have to do that. But either way, you've got to start things. If you have to start things in a certain order, then you're either going to do it yourself, like you do, and that's what I've typically done as well, and I think microservices is a good way to maybe keep that possible, because the bigger your application gets, then then I suppose, it's kind of unavoidable that you're going to have these ordering issues.
Well,
or it's going to be tricky to manage it in a REPL at least.
Well, like I do think that there is a certain level of complexity where like just keeping it all in your head and having a system do it for you, or like makes a graph. It takes this graph and like turns it into a tree so that it says this one is the one that has to start first, like you can derive that. But like having a function that you write that's just step by step, start this, start this, start this, start this, start this, and then a function that's tear down, that's tear this down, and you just get the right order one time. It's not like we're adding and removing like systems all the time.
Yeah.
It seems like it solves the same issue. It's just not like, it's not sexy that it's not automatically derived. You have to write it out yourself.
Yeah.
But the order like works every time, and it's so clear what it's going to do. I mean, the worst case is that you have to deal with stuff like, well, this didn't start, so I shouldn't stop it, right?
Because I mean, I'm old enough to have been a Java programmer in J2EE terms and remembered all of those things. And when Spring came, it was heaven to get rid of all of these complexity of J2EE. But it brought its own complexity, with dependency injection, which again seemed quite nice at the time, but you never quite knew what the proper patterns were, even with dependency injection. Like, well, do you use like property-based constructors, or do you use like final constructors, or object-based constructors? And then all these, it was interesting how the kind of the language had all these patterns emerging around it, like builder patterns and stuff like that, which then weren't easily, it had to be retrofitted back into that Spring framework. And that's the thing that kind of worries me a little bit about these component frameworks, is that they somehow limit your thinking in terms.
Well, and they create a kind of cottage industry. Now a Spring certified developer is a thing, and there's a whole industry on courses and certificates and stuff. And I mean, maybe it's a good thing. I'm not sure. Like, maybe that's just what Clojure needs, is something really complicated that you could then become an expert in like all the intricacies of it. But I wouldn't be surprised if one day, like, the core Clojure team comes out with, here's the solution, and it's a very simple, straightforward solution, just like they've done with lots of other things that the community has built. They just come up with a very simple one.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
5 years from now.
Yeah, it's going to be in 30 years or something, right?
Yeah. Function composition is kind of like that already. And I think it's one of these things where people, I noticed there's a chat in the thing in the chat, saying, oh, describing structure isn't limiting to thinking. But people say that about types as well. People say, well, describing data structures and types doesn't limit your thinking, but it kind of does actually. It limits your freedom. Limits your freedom to act, actually. That's what I really feel like. Not necessarily your thinking, but your freedom to act in the REPL is limited by these frameworks, actually.
Yeah, I mean, people say that like your database has a schema. I think Rich Hickey said this anyway, that your database always has a schema. It's just whether you wrote it down. And I totally disagree with him. I think that it's true, your database has a schema, and it is, that is a variable whether you write it down or not. But the language you write it down in also makes a big difference. If your tools don't give you the language, the expression that you need to write down the schema that you would like, then it doesn't matter if you wrote it down. You're writing down the wrong thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the component framework wars.
So
they're worth.
Another point I wanted to make. I try to think of like meta points.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm doing like my newsletter and stuff. To me, the meta point is that there's a lot of discussion online, like a lot of blog posts about, oh, component really helped us, and mount helped us where component didn't. And there's like, but you never hear the people who are just like busy without them and they're fine without it. So like, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, you need to do a course on component. And I don't think I do. I don't think it's that popular. And it's hard to say how unpopular it actually is, but I don't know. It's not like one of those like, oh, this is a must-have, and so I, you know, need to have the course.
I think it's probably like grades where some people don't need it because of certain other patterns they're following, like microservices or whatever, and other people don't need it because they're maybe or they need it to start off with, and then they're following component, but then they think, oh, we're going to run into some issues, then they go with integrant, or then they have other issues, and then like Walmart Labs, they wrote their own thing. So, you know, it's like, it seems like there's an ecosystem or a level of maturity, and it's very early days for those things. So maybe it will be in 5 or 10 years' time when these things all settle down. You know. But actually, someone makes a point there about Figwheel, and we were talking about that a while ago. The fact that, you know, the REPL guide that was out recently, you know, that thing talked about how do you design for the REPL, and you know, and we were talking about like that sort of stuff with where you have to reload your state in a REPL. So there are, you know, there is a need to manage state somehow. And complexity, but it seems like mostly Clojure is about doing that in the native language rather than in the tool chain per se. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to say again, like I've never needed it, so it's not like, I mean, I understand that people do, but I don't. I think that the tools that you have, I mean, Atoms and Def Once to me are. That's a lot right there.
Yeah. Someone.
My file.
Yeah, Ed here says if you do microservices, I think you tend to build your own structure anyway, and component gets in the way of that. And I think that, yeah, we really felt that here. It's especially if you're doing REPL-driven stuff. It's just.
It's another thing to learn as well, isn't it? I mean. And I think like nowadays in Clojure, and Clojurescript, if you're going full stack, there's so much stuff to learn, you know. And having another thing on top of that is, you know, maybe it's a burden that many developers want to avoid if they can. You know, until it hurts them, I guess. Like many things, you know, we're a bit reluctant to invest the time until we see the benefits. And I don't see any. I've seen the blog posts from these guys saying that it gives us a benefit, it's helpful, and I've spoken to people who are really, you know, enthusiastic about component and integrant and stuff, but I don't know, I don't get it. I don't really understand it yet.
I think if you're coming from like a heavy Java background and you were attached to Spring and you're attached to these kinds of things, like it would probably feel really good, and you're probably able to develop better with it because you have more attachments to it, you have more knowledge of it. I don't know, I don't come from a Java background at all. Clojure is actually the only programming language I've ever used on the job besides JavaScript. So
awesome use case.
Yeah, and I'm also curious, like what people are actually booting up and tearing down all the time.
I think it's like embedded test systems. That's what I've used it for, is like typically in test environments.
Because I thought the whole point was to work with the like reloaded workflow so that at your REPL you can like blow it all away and start it really fast without having to restart the JVM.
Yeah. Never really done that personally, the reloaded thing. I've done the kind of like, let's jack into the REPL with all this state started and then do work, and then 3 days later you have to. That component didn't really help there, apart from like you said at the beginning, Eric, like organizing the order of events, which you could have done without it, really. Yeah.
Right.
And I found it when I had to use it, it was a cognitive burden I didn't really want to carry. Someone else kind of looked after that component part of the system, and I was very happy about that. I mean, they had to do weird things to make component happy as well. Like that, to use these like dynamic var bindings and stuff like that. Which, yeah, who uses that stuff? You know, who uses? I'm sure you use dynamic vars somewhere, Mike, but you know, I think they seem to be like they were necessary to get things started with component, but I don't see the use case generally for dynamic vars. You know, outside of that. You ever use one, Mia?
We use them to when we're running our tests.
Yeah.
We use them to set up our test environment in the REPL.
Yeah.
But those are fighting words.
Sorry, I don't mean it to be.
Do you think there's something to the fact that Bruce Howman, who wrote Fig Wheel, lives in a dome that he made out of plastic? That it's like the barest possible structure that could survive. You could survive
surface area.
Well, I spoke to Bruce recently. I can confirm that he's out of his dome.
He's out of the dome.
Yeah, it's like a hijack situation. We talked to him on this Defin podcast, and he's in Canada now. He's escaped the country, actually.
Oh,
where was the dome, and is it for sale? Because we're in the market.
It might be all you can buy in San Francisco, actually. So
yeah, can we move it to?
Right.
All right.
Cool. Yeah. Why don't we go to the second topic?
All right.
And yeah, maybe next time we could invite someone who really likes component, and we won't just like rain on its parade the whole time.
I have no opinions on it. I've just never used it. I'm sure that it works great for what they need it for. They wouldn't have built it.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
It's just to be honest, just to put a final nail in that one. The only reason I raised it was mainly to check whether or not there was this sort of feeling that it was becoming like a necessary thing, you know, which I don't personally feel like it is, and it seems like we at least on this panel are agreeing that it's not obligatory. So anyway, that's all it was really. No harm.
Right. So Mike brought up the next one.
Okay. Yeah. So for what it's worth, there's a new guide on the Clojurescript website, and to be honest, I don't know how you find it. The Clojurescript website is actually the search capability on both the Clojure and the Clojurescript websites is currently broken. There's a tab to get that fixed. But I did discover, yeah. So if you go in the search box, you'll get back no results, right?
Nice.
But what I found, there's a trick you can do. There's a trick you can do. You can go and you can mess with something in the URL and hit return, and it'll say, and then it'll bring you to like a Google search thing. And if you type something in there, it'll find so if you want to find this NS, there's a new NS forms guide that you can find that way. And I think that's the only way you can, like, it's not discoverable. You have to search for it that way because it's not linked in anywhere. But anyway, the point of that guide is if you think about NS forms in Clojurescript, because of the fact that macros are handled differently, there's a lot of differences. You know, there's like require macros, refer macros, include macros true, all this stuff that to me seems rather complex, but that's what that guide describes. I don't know if you all find this stuff too hard to figure out on your own, or mind bending at times. But
you know what I find mind bending is that people talk a lot on social media and in Slack about future versions of Clojurescript, like that are unreleased. And so they'll say something like, oh, you don't need the require macros anymore. You just use require. And then I'll go try it. And it's like, I'll spend an hour on it and it doesn't work. And
really? Yeah.
So that happens to me all the time where, you know, people are like, oh, NPM modules has just worked for the last 6 months and I can't get it to work. And then it turns out, oh, well, when we say work, we mean like, you know, you have to be running the latest master like all the time, like keep, you know.
Yeah.
pulling from master, and work means, you work through all the problems by hand on Slack with David Nolan.
The intent of all this
But David watches this, so.
Oh, hey, David.
Hi, David.
So the intent of all this stuff is not to make your life complicated.
Thank you for retweeting me once.
So there's all this complexity surrounding namespace forms. I would say arguably due to the fact that you have macros being a little different. But the intent of all this stuff is so that you actually don't need to know all this complexity, and you can write your stuff just like Clojure. So there's you can, if like Eric said, if you have the latest version of all this stuff, you can just refer macros directly, and the compiler will figure it out.
Right. And is this so I didn't know if this include macros thing too.
Yeah, so that's, those are all those kind of things end up really just being, a lot of that ends up being sugar, in the sense that if you look at an NS form that it has include macros, you can desugar it and find out what the actual more complicated, one that uses require macros. And so you could think of it that way, that all those kind of things are just niceties that desugar into more verbose forms. And
is this the current release of Clojurescript? All this stuff works?
All this stuff has actually been in Clojurescript, I want to say, for like a year or more now. So, and I think perhaps it's there might be this thing where people just aren't aware that these things are simpler now. And so now there's a guide that kind of it walks you through, all the complexity, and you come out the other end feeling like, now I can just ignore all the stuff that I just learned and use the simpler stuff. But at least you have like the knowledge of all of it. So if you see something in the wild that uses include macros true, and you're like, what does that mean, really? This guy would explain that.
Cool. Well, thank you for the guide, Mike.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime.
And for teaching us how to use search on Clojure websites right now.
Yeah, I mean.
But isn't one of the highlights, Mike, the fact that you can do things like you can say require Clojure test and require Clojure core.async.
Yeah, that's another.
And those are the real wins. That now you write your code, and you don't need to do too much. Like in the past, in a namespace of a CLJC file, there would be quite a lot of
conditional
stuff in the namespace stuff, regardless of the code itself, and that seems to be a big win, actually. In my opinion.
Yeah. To summarize that, a lot of those are kind of unnecessary. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I was going to ask, just going off what Ray was saying, do require macros and what's the other one? Include macros work in Clojure too?
No.
It's a one-way street, man.
Yeah. So what you can do is, if you're trying to write portable code, a lot of times you can just write what you would have written in Clojure, and Clojurescript will just work. It'll see that namespace form and it'll just work. And one of the things that it does is, like, if your namespace starts with Clojure, like Clojure test, it'll get aliased to CLJS test automatically. So you don't have to like have a conditional. You can just say, I want to require Clojure test.
But I guess that only happens for the core namespaces.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what about all the macros? They work now?
Yeah, so you can just, you can say, require Clojure test, refer def test, if is, things like that, those things that are macros. And the compiler will just figure it out. And it'll say, oh, this symbol that you're referring here is not it's not a var for a runtime thing, it's a macro. And while it's compiling, it'll see that and essentially effectively act like it desugared to doing the right thing for you. So it's really complicated, all these things you could do, but the intent is to make it all simple in the end, So that guide, to be honest, a lot of that stuff, unfortunately, should not have to be explained, but it's there. You can read it if you want to, and you can see the gory details of how it all can work.
Yeah.
But a lot of that stuff you can ignore usually. And in the end, you can just write your namespace forms just like as if you were writing stuff in Clojure.
Yeah, that's beautiful, actually.
Very nice.
Oh, it looks like the link that you posted in chat is going to a 404. So I'm going to try searching in the search bar
That's weird,
here
isn't
on
it?
this
'Cause
404 page and see what happens. It takes you to Google.
Came from my brain.
So that's great. And here it is. Found it.
I
I
got
think
it.
this is it, clojurescript.org/guides/ns-forms.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Isn't that what I pasted?
It looks like it truncated it.
Oh.
So I can't paste it because I don't have a
I'm
YouTube
not
account.
logged in.
Oh, God damn it! Yeah, that's the stupid chat window.
Okay, let me try to
Okay.
switch. No, I'm logged in as the wrong. Oh wait, there we go. Okay, I'm gonna try this. Let's paste.
It says I forgot to remove the query string. Okay.
No,
so
it's
where I was.
404 when I click on it, but I'm definitely there on that page.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Oh well.
So Mia, you said you were able to find it using the trick.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't like if you're brand new to Clojurescript and you're reading that page, there's no way you're going to know how to find this thing. So that ultimately needs to be fixed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well. Yeah. And I know people out there like on this chat are saying we should do it on Twitch and we should do it on these other things, but none of these platforms are actually quite as simple as YouTube. Maybe it's as easy is a better word, but from our perspective, setting up this panel and this chat and then publishing and everything like that, having all the kind of facilities, we can't do that elsewhere for the kind of time that we save on YouTube.
Especially
I think
with.
they just.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I think they just want to do it on Twitch so they can hop on the REPL with us.
Well, maybe we'll have a surprise for them in the coming weeks. I'm working on something.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I think this thing is over.
It's true.
Let's kill it. So we are about to switch over to the REPL, and we have a very awesome problem that looks very long. I don't know if we'll be able to finish this, but it's still awesome. It's from Clojure. And if you're listening on the audio version, we're going to end it right here. And if you want to watch it, you're going to have to go to YouTube and find this episode, which is number 5. Awesome. So let's hop over to the REPL.
I'll put that in the live chat, actually, the problem.
The title of it is Finding Anagrams?
Finding anagram finder.
Well, what is the definition of an anagram? Is that reversed or just a jumble?
No, it's just any word that can be spelled using the same collection of letters. So in other words, team and meet is anagram, and mate is also an anagram. They give some examples here. In fact, those are the examples.
It's a permutation of the letters in the word.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so it has to be the same number of letters. So you couldn't get me out of meat. That would not be an anagram.
Right. Has to use all the letters.
One. That's a subset. That's like, these like word finders. You can get word finders that do that kind of like truncation of a word, like find words within words. But anagram is just like
a permutation
same word spelled differently.
Yeah.
So do we have an example of a vector of words?
Yeah, they give you an example. I can create one as well. I'll just do that.
Is there someone who's controlling the camera that points at the REPL?
I am.
Can you just point at the REPL then, Eric, and then it'll
Click on it, maybe? Yeah.
Present to everyone.
Oh.
Network.
That's
Thought I
right.
did
Yeah.
that.
I'm seeing the REPL now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I also put a few wacky words there that are, just to show that it's obvious that it's A, B, C, D, E, and B, A, And this is so those are 5 letters.
And so this is finding mutual anagrams, or not anagram like actual anagrams of meat. It's just the ones that are in there, like team and mate, I guess.
Oh yeah. It's not like looking up on a dictionary.
Okay.
You could of course connect to a dictionary, I guess.
So is the problem definition to look at every possible pair of words here and determine whether or not that pair is an anagram or not?
And they group them into...
No, it's not pairs. It's not pairs.
No? Okay.
No. It's the entire collection. Can you find an anagram, like for meat? Can you find an anagram for that in the rest of the entire collection? So in this case, we know from the for Clojure thing that meat, team, and mate, we can see it ourselves that there's three there, and that eat and mat are not anagrams, and we can also see that A, B, C, D, E, and B, A, E, D, C, they are anagrams.
Do we like group them into their equivalence classes or something where you have 3 or what would maybe 4 different?
So I was thinking you start off by saying, you're looking at the counts, aren't you? So you can say group by count.
Okay.
Okay, that's a good start.
And then it kind of gets you somewhere, but then the next thing is that you then need to, for each of those ones, you need to get the values basically, because it's producing a little map here, and then you need to work on the values because actually the count isn't interesting.
Okay.
So we can definitely just sort of I don't know if that does this work.
Well, but then what if some of our words had, what if we had another 4-letter word in there that had multiple anagrams? Is that not part of this problem?
Well,
That's true.
Yeah, he might be figuring that out.
No, it's good. Let's because in the we could put change the words a little bit so that we have
You could have read and deer.
Yeah.
Is it true that if you sort the letters in a word, then that would kind of like be a canonical
Key.
representation?
Yeah.
Key? Yeah.
I would do that.
Yeah.
So could you compose sort by and or group by and sort somehow to?
REPL read line, you bastard.
Bruce,
Bruce,
your
are
bugs.
you watching?
Get out of your dome and help us.
By the way, I want someone else to take over now because I said to you in the chat that I've got a solution, but it's probably terrible. So I want someone else to type.
So Rob
Is it a
has
simple
explained
escape
why
question?
I'm not doing this, which is this was the coding puzzle that I did for new hires.
All right, okay.
So 17 ways of
Oh,
doing
you know the answer.
Okay, I'm curious. I'm gonna try
Yeah,
this
go
just to
ahead.
see what it does. I haven't thought through it, but I want to group by sort and see what happens. Should this do?
Oh, it looks pretty good so far.
Is it doing something useful?
Yeah, then take vowels of that.
It did kind of give us the.
I think
Stuff
it grouped them right. And then
Okay.
you take the vowels and then
Okay,
just
I'm
filter
on-
out the ones that
Yeah.
are less than
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
Vowels.
No, that's.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that is right. Yeah, and just less than 2, and you're done.
Okay,
Great
so
set.
Set them up.
let's see. Put a little anonymous function here.
Yeah.
Did it close the prints? I don't know if REPL.
No, it doesn't do it magically.
Okay.
No.
That is an option, right? It uses parinfer.
Let's see. I want to Filter.
Count less than 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Count group. Less than count. Oh no, okay. Less than count group 2, yeah.
Oh.
Have another
Hit
little
return while I was in the middle
thread
of
as
that
well.
line.
Oh, man,
Do you have to
yeah.
like get to the end of the line maybe? Okay, I'll go Control E and then hit return.
Control E should work.
Then
So
you've
I'm
got
missing a
another-
paren. Yeah, that's.
Hit
I
up.
think. Oh, thank you. It's old habits, man. I can't do
Yeah.
it.
Oh no, you want to be more than, not less than.
Yeah, I got the wrong one. So
Yeah.
So
So,
flip-
but
flip.
it's so easy to. I
Greater
think
than
those
or
are in the
equal to.
wrong order actually. That less than, greater than, and it seems to be in the wrong order to me.
Greater than or equal to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
press
hit
up
up.
arrow.
Yeah.
I'm with you. And then I'm going to do Control E and hit return.
Right. And then we set them up and we're done, I think.
So is that the answer or an answer?
You still need to turn them into sets, but that's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer.
Yeah. If you just do map set, that's it.
Map
so
set.
was it trickier than this, Mia?
Not really. Leandro's got one with a double kebab in it here, and a juxt.
Yeah.
Oh, I should always use juxta again.
I've never seen a juxt used seriously before.
He's definitely using it ironically.
Adjust.
Oh, is he? Does it work?
Oh, hold on. I was sorry. I was typing mine.
Okay, group by sort. Vowels. Filter.
Boom. Yeah.
Map set.
Wow,
Nice.
that lined up pretty nice with a double kebab.
Yeah.
Map, juxt, identity, frequencies, words. Group by second. Oh wow.
No,
Okay,
that's wrong.
let's try it.
Well, it's not wrong, but it's
It's
sorry.
obscene.
It's morally wrong.
wait. But let's see this. He's doing a map, juxt.
Mhm.
I jux like every day. Oh yeah, it's like we're training
Words.
guys. Yeah.
What? Okay, you're getting identities. You're getting the word and the letters by frequency.
Okay, frequencies might be a
Grouping
key.
by second, so you're getting the key out there.
I think how in the previous solution we used sort to form a key.
Yeah,
I think frequencies is acting in the same role.
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Because you can group by it, and then you partition by identity, right? And then you still have to filter for the ones that are less than 2. Yeah, makes sense.
Mhm.
I think the sorted letters is actually the cleanest. That's I'm gonna contend that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe frequencies might be faster. I don't know. If you have
I've actually
gigantic
never
long
seen
words.
I've never seen an attempt besides using sort to get a canonical form.
Isn't it just nice though that you can sort a string and get a value that is, has equality, has,
Yes.
all the stuff that you expect on it. Like if you tried to do this in Java, you'd be like writing classes to get this stuff or doing something else with a for loop, double nested for loop or something.
Yeah.
Like I've been using other languages and I always like get to this point and I'm like, oh no, objects don't have equality. And I have to like back out and figure some other way out.
Yeah, that's valuable for these kind of problems where you just want to apply sort to something and get something that you can use then as a key or yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a group by that doesn't create a map? You can just get the vowels directly. I mean, I don't know how much you would save, but it seems like
It does seem frequent that that's what you want.
I know what
Yeah.
you mean. It's like this vowels thing seems odd, doesn't it? It's like,
you're just throwing away the keys.
well, that.
I mean, I guess there might be some cases where you would want the keys, like where you would want to know the count of each. Like I think I've actually used that once. But it is a more common case to just want the groups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's bothering me now, Eric. It's like there's got to be a function that does that for you.
Well, it's probably like, I mean, this is the way I imagine it. Like if you tried to write group by that just gave you the vowels, you would go through a map anyway, right? And so then might as well just return the map. And if they want it, they can keep it. If they don't want it, they can throw away the keys. That happens to me a lot where I'm like, the easiest way to implement it is through this intermediate data structure.
So in this case, you would say you just keep the vowels all the way through and just drop that vowels and just filter on the vowel, filter on the last or something on the count too.
No, I'm just thinking that group by creates this map, but then you immediately just get the vowels out of it and throw away the keys. You don't need it to be a map. So could you is there some function that doesn't give you a map? But
the closest thing that I can see that smells like that is there's often people write their own distinct by.
Yeah.
And if you had that, then you could see it wouldn't really give you the right answer, but it would give you at least all the, I guess it would give you would end up with the things that have like 2 or less in your answer. And you would also not get the list of all the variants.
Right.
But it's got that same smell where it's like, just give me the things. Don't.
Yeah.
There's another interesting point to me is like some of these functions, some of these things, like you mentioned there, you have group by, partition by, merge with, but you don't have distinct. Because distinct takes a predicate, so you can't curry in the function. You have just the predicate as well. So that's kind of what you want, isn't it? You want like an additional function there to be added. But I guess Jux does that as well.
Yeah, I think it's bothering me now because it's always I almost always want the values out of group by.
I often want the whole map. I use it like an indexing function, just like give me all the make an index of this collection based on this value, this key. But then this does happen a lot where I just want the vowels right out.
I guess if you partitioned by the sort, they wouldn't work because they wouldn't be in the right order to come out in little partitions. But if you somehow
could sort by sort.
Sort by sort?
Yeah.
Yeah, do that. Okay, and then partition by sort.
Is that? I'll do it.
Okay.
Sort by.
Sort by sort. I like that for sort.
Words. Weird.
Yeah. Wait. Oh, come on. You have to be able to do this. It's too cool. Come on.
What happened? Words. Sort by
a key function.
Sort. But why doesn't it sort on it? Oh, there's no comparable for a list of
words.
characters. Is that right?
Sequence, yeah.
It has to be sort count words. Or no?
But I don't want to count them.
Yeah, no.
We need a comparable.
Is there something that'll turn the result of that into a comparable? I can't remember.
There's like compare. How do you do that? I haven't done this in a long time. No, I don't remember how to do this. I
We
mean,
need you, chat. We need you.
so array seeks are not comparable? That's weird.
What does the comparator function do? I can't remember that one.
Like you can't do compare empty with one. Persistent list cannot be cast to comparable. Huh. But you can do compare.
So you can turn them into vectors, though, right?
What's that?
It's
Turn them into
definitely
vectors?
Yeah, like compose instead of passing in sort, pass the composition of
Compose vec
yeah.
sort. Oops. That was a fail.
But
Oh,
change
I-
compose to
Comp.
comp. Yeah. I know what you meant.
I haven't used that in a while.
Okay.
Okay, there we
Yeah,
go.
That's what we wanted.
And then we
And then
need
partition
to
by
partition by
the
what?
same
Identity?
beast. Partition by comp vec sort.
Oh, that's why?
The same beast, whatever that was.
This is the opposite of golf.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Whatever that is.
Okay. I
What
don't
is
even
it?
know if we need the comp vec. I think we could do it with just sort here.
Yeah, we can definitely do it because I've showed it already. Partition by sort won't work here.
Oh. Okay.
Because we're not comparing in a sort function anymore.
Is that even the right answer?
It is. So if you do the filter by and you do the count,
Yeah.
and you're good.
I don't know if it's any better though.
We got two groups out of that?
Oh.
Trust you.
Yeah,
Looks like
two
it's
groups.
close.
Two matching groups. Yeah, 2
Mhm.
correct groups.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was inspired by Eric's desire to just not have the vowels.
I
discussion.
like
Yeah.
it. I like it. I like this. I like this better actually.
Yeah, I did too.
Sort by sort.
Yeah, sort
Yeah,
by
that's
sort
awesome.
west. Yeah.
With a little detour
by sort
through
vec.
a lesson into comparables on the Clojure type hierarchy.
Yeah.
This is amenable to transducers too. So.
I wonder why seeks don't have comparable.
Yeah, why can't you?
I mean,
Why
sure,
not?
there's problems with laziness, but
Wow.
Right, you might compare to an infinite. See,
you might compare it to infinites, but the likelihood is they're either the same infinite sequences, right?
Mhm.
Or they're different. And at some point it's gonna end. They're gonna be different somewhere if they're different.
One is pi, and one is pi, but the final number is wrong.
Oh, right. Or like it's like an infinite array of zeros, or an infinite list of zeros, or an infinite list of zeros with a 1 after all of them. If you lazy cat a 1 onto the end of an infinite list of zeros.
Yeah. We never know if that works or
We
not.
never know. We would know, but the computer would know.
Yeah. In theory, we know. We know in theory it would work, but in practice, it might not.
And that's how we're going to beat the machines.
Right. Well,
Keep them busy.
come on, just one more digit of pi. You can do it.
Bitcoin mining is
they're
actually
almost at
just
the end.
Shiny pie.
The last computer who did this, they got it. Keep trying. Oh man. But but in mathematically, if you had an infinite sequence of zeros with a 1 after the infinite of zeros, isn't that the same as an infinite sequence of zeros without a 1 at the end?
Yeah.
At the end, I think they are the same mathematically. Like if you never get to that 1, it's like it doesn't exist.
So how do you add it then? How do you even add it?
Well, you can add it in code really easily. So you can do
but
lazy or concat,
making
what is it? Repeat 0 and 1. Okay, there I crashed it.
it's going to crash on the screen now, Mike.
So for what it's worth, there is a Jira ticket asking Clojure to make things be comparable, like persistent lists and other things.
Now is the time
sequences.
how old is that ticket?
It was written in 2014.
Okay,
Oh, relatively recent then, yeah.
pretty recent.
Got a fix on it yet then?
There's a patch for it, whatever it is. I don't know
Is
if it works
there-
for lazy sequences, but it's basically talking about persistent lists being comparable.
Is there any discussion? Like,
That would explain why you can't do it. No,
yeah.
no.
Everyone just ignores those tickets, so it's okay.
But it is kind of like Eric said, it's like nice that you can use something as a key. It's like, why can't you sort by sort? That's that would be just in line
Right.
with what the language can do. Yeah.
I mean, if there's a good reason, then
Right.
it's okay.
Yeah.
It's just you can sort by sort, no, but you can sort by vec of sort. Like, well, why is that? It's
Yeah.
kind of hard to know that would work.
So if you made any attempt to turn each of these words into sets of letters, you would then probably run afoul of
Yep. You'd lose
duplicate letters,
Yeah.
and that would fail, right? Just thinking if there's other ways to do this problem. Because they're all just permutations of each other. Yeah, sorting seems like the most obvious way to find a key.
Oh, there's a sort stir.
There it is. What is this beast that you're talking about?
Doc. Oh, doc doesn't exist. Sort
Yeah.
stir. No.
I like the chat there. You can have sort by Angus. You could do the ASCII characters, and sum them up.
That would collide, though, right?
That would collide pretty quickly, I think.
Or would
That's
it?
true. Well,
Well-
there are potential collisions out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably find a way to collide them. You want to write a program to collide to find collisions? This is what the REPL is for, folks, right? So we have, let's see, letter.
Okay.
Let me see if I can remember all of these. Okay.
All right. Very good.
And then,
Your daughter can help if you can't remember.
what's
So-
the
So for
letter?
each letter.
I'm going to copy paste that. If I
Okay.
can get my mouse. No. What am I doing? I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, it seems like you should pretty easily be able to.
You can just say letter, can't you? By the way.
Letter will be a single letter, right?
Letter is one of the letters.
Yeah, but if you wanted to clone it in a let, you could just reference the previous definition.
You could have an outermost let if you want to.
I could do that. So, right. I gotta sit here and think about this for a second.
It's
Give-
one. I gotta go. I've been
All
babysitting
right.
Tess. Now I gotta go and give them to someone else to raise.
It's
All right,
it's
man.
good. It's good. I think we should stop. We should stop. We're running out of ideas now, big time. We're just finding work for ourselves here.
So
We can do
We're
this thing where I
hiring.
look for collisions and then we can call it.
You're
you're hiring.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
They know the answer to the goddamn quiz now. This is not good.
Everyone that's great. Our audience will now get a free pass to work at London Circle.
You have to use Juxt.
You have to use Juxt.
All right. Bye, team.
All right.
Bye, me.
Yeah.
All right. So another thing I want to do is something like, say we're going to look at words that are less than 10 letters long. And then this is where I need help. I want to make words. I want to make every word that's less than 10 letters long.
Oh, yeah.
And then just compare them all for collisions. That doesn't sound that bad.
Where you were first going seemed like it could lead to an answer too. If you're just trying to find any collisions, you could, or you had letter 1 and letter 2.
Well, so what I'm thinking is it'll be more likely that if you had something like the word that's just the letter Z, right?
Yeah.
Or the word that's the letter Z and the word with A, so ZA, is going to collide with something like kind of in the middle, like KL, right? That's what I'm thinking, something like that. So maybe we should just try that. We'll try every 2-letter word if we can get some collisions.
It also seems like if you had a letter, if AZ was a word, then BY would sum to the same thing. BY is a word, so if you keep going, you'll. So you want to basically, you're looping through all the different, you're trying to come up with a letter from that. So you have 4 letters, okay?
Then I want all the pairs. So I'm going to make stir letter 1, letter 2, and stir letter 3, letter 4.
Okay.
Okay. So that's going to be a pretty big list. It is 26 to the 4th power. But you know what I can do is I can take these 2 words. Let's see. Make a let here. Word 1. I'll just type it out again. Letter 1. Letter 2.
I think your daughter knows the answer.
Yeah, I think she's
Says
telling
it's
you
obvious,
to stop
Daddy.
as well.
Am I on the right track? Are you guys just watching me like fail here?
Yeah, it's
When
interesting.
equals word 1, word 2, then we're gonna do word 1, word 2. Okay, I'm gonna hit enter.
Okay.
We're gonna see. Whoa, there's a lot of words. These are 2-letter words that don't actually exist, right?
Some of them might exist.
So we generated, but some of them are the same. Oh, we got to get rid of those.
Yeah, because you have them equal.
Oh, it's not equal, it's count.
Yeah.
Oh, what is it? The sum up the when not equal and when something else has to be equal. The sum apply plus map. What is it?
Maybe ent, map ent on each word.
No, how do you get the ASCII point? Do you remember this? Oh, I gotta look it
Clojure,
up.
I think you can do int.
Int? Just turn it
on
into
the
an int?
chart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Int \c.
Map int word 1. Apply plus map int word 2.
It doesn't
Okay.
work in Clojurescript, but it works in Clojure. Yeah.
Now that's taking a lot longer. There we go.
Here we go. Yeah.
Oh, of course, ZY and YZ collide. Well, we gotta get rid of that. When not equals, sort word 1, sort word 2.
Okay.
Okay.
Further filter tab.
This is gonna happen. I see some that aren't like that. So, whoa, there's a lot of collisions. Let's count that.
Count %1. Yeah.
What?
What just happened?
Reprinted it.
I think
Yeah,
that's a fig wheel or not.
Yeah.
Rebel readline book.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
there's still, I mean, there's a lot of these combos, right? So some of them are also like this word, you know, the pair, the symmetrical pair.
By the way, you did like sort word 1 and sort word 2. Would you have done like word 1 and reverse word? Oh no, okay, I see what you're doing. Yeah,
Right, it would work. It would work with this because it's
yeah.
2 letters.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, so there are a lot of collisions, even at 2 letters.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody.
I'm out of gin.
Yeah, subscribe and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Nice reference.
All right. Bye.
Later.
See you next time.
Bye, guys and girls and